Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to share another really good recipe with you. One of my favorites of all time at this point, and that is sourdough sandwich bread. So let's get started. This easy sourdough sandwich bread can be made with sourdough starter, flour, salt, water, butter, and a little bit of sugar if you like, and I believe there's also olive oil. I'll actually read you the whole recipe here. So you're gonna watch me make this, I'm gonna read you the recipe, and I will talk about it, give you some of my tips, etc. So the recipe is 3/4 cup active bubbly sourdough starter, 1.5 cup filtered warm water, 1.5 teaspoon salt, 4 tablespoons butter that has been melted and then cooled slightly, and then 1 to 2 tablespoons of sugar. You can also do honey, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and 4 cups of all-purpose or bread flour, and then an egg, which is optional for the egg wash. So you can see that I have melted the butter on the stove and I'm letting it cool at this point, and meanwhile I'm mixing up my sourdough starter, the liquid ingredients, so the starter, the water, and the salt, olive oil, and sugar. I mix those up with a fork, evenly combined, and then I'm going to add my flour. If you're new to the world of sourdough is a beautiful process of fermenting the grain that basically strips some of the phytic acid away from the grain, which is what makes grain difficult to digest for many people. So when you ferment it and you create a sourdough product, it's inherently easier to digest and healthier for you. Now, sourdough sandwich bread is unique because of its very moist, springy, bouncy, delicious flavor, and that is achieved by adding butter. So you saw me melting the butter. I highly recommend actually melting it because it goes in the dough a lot better when it is fully melted. Just make sure it's not hot because it will kind of ruin the rest of your ingredients if it is. So after you initially combine the ingredients, you're going to cover the bowl with a tea towel, which you saw me do, and let it just sit on your countertop. Then you're going to do some stretch and folds. If you are brand new to bread making entirely, I will leave a link below to the blog post where I walk you through step by step, and you can print that out. At the very bottom, there's a recipe card. You can just print it and put it on your counter. That way you don't have to keep watching the video or keep going to the blog post. Basically, you're gonna do some stretch and folds where you lift up one side of the dough, put it down and back into the middle, rotate the bowl 90 degrees, lift it up again, put it down in the middle till you've done that for all 4 sides. And you're gonna do a few of those throughout the evening or the afternoon, depending on when you're doing this. Then you're going to do a long fermentation, which I'm going to do in the fridge here by covering the dough with plastic and then a towel on top. I put it in the fridge and let it sit overnight. Now I find with sandwich bread that you can actually get away with doing less stretching and folding. You can like whip it up the night before. I've done this. I'm actually doing this right now as I'm recording the voiceover. I'm making a dough and just doing it late in the evening, letting it just sit all night, and I'm going to bake it tomorrow. So this is not a very picky process, but I am going to show you the ideal way of doing it here. The next day, you're gonna take the dough out of the fridge and let it sit for a little while just to warm up a little bit. It makes it a little easier to stretch. And you can do one of two things here. You're gonna see me stretch this into a rectangle, which is very effective so that you get the right shape for sandwich bread because you're gonna put this in your sandwich tin. So I'm gonna stretch it into a rectangle, line my tin with parchment paper, and then fold it into the proper shape. And then again, let it sit to ferment a little while longer. Alternatively, I've done this in a rush before where I didn't have time to actually do a rectangle. Not like it takes a long time, but it just, you know how it goes sometimes. And I just took the whole, dough ball that it was kind of in the bowl and basically stretched it very, very minimally and just threw it into the sandwich tin just to see what would happen. I'm like, let's see how this goes. And it worked out beautifully. It was actually one of my best loaves. So anyway, you can do either way, but I do like the rectangle method because you get a perfect shape. So if you actually are gonna use this for sandwiches and you want that perfectly shaped slices of bread, this is a good way to do that. So you're gonna put it in the sandwich tin, put a towel over it, and let that sit again. And you can let it sit for anywhere from 2 hours to 6 hours. I've let this sit for 9 hours before and it exploded out of the sandwich tin. Just don't let it sit too long. If it's too warm out in your house or something, it can over ferment. But again, this is the kind of thing that does take practice. Any sourdough bread takes practice. Of course, you know that if you are a sourdough baker. So I'm going to be adding an egg wash. That's another reason this is such a delicious recipe, is the egg wash on top creates a really glossy and delicious crust. I'm going to bake it at 350 for about 35 minutes. As you can see, it came out beautifully. We are enjoying this for sandwiches, for toast, for French toast, and everything in between. I hope you enjoy this recipe and you add it to your sourdough repertoire of all of your favorite recipes. Thank you so much. If you're brand new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. Every week I post a new video on farm-to-table recipes like this one and homemade natural living. Thank you so much for stopping by the Duvall Homestead.